What's going on, everybody? I'm Scott Oots, and today I'm bringing a guest on that I'm so excited about, somebody I call my personal friend, someone that is changing so many lives out there. You guys might remember him from the Real Estate Disruptors podcast, where he spends a lot of time interviewing other people, and I have the opportunity to actually interview him for a change and have a discussion. So everyone, please welcome Steve Trang onto the podcast. What's going on, man?
Thank you so much for having me. Man, just staying busy, right? Just a daily grind, but loving every day what we get to do, that we get to play every day, do what we love, and get compensated very well for it.
That's it, man. I love it. And honestly, like, you and I have gotten to know each other over the last couple of years. And, I just know genuinely how great of a guy you are and how you care about people and you want people to get to that next level. And, a lot of people say that, and they say they want to help grow people. And, I look at you, man, and I see you actually doing it every single day. And it's admirable to be able to see what it is you're doing and how many lives you're changing, even, through your 100 Millionaires, through your podcast, man. I don't think you even realize the impact and how many lives you're changing. Like, you may see your 100 Millionaires you're doing, but you may not see all those people out there that are getting so much value out of all of the podcasts you're doing. And it's really appreciated. And I think that if you could have all of those people come forward and tell you the impact you're making, man, I think you would look at it and your vision would even change as far as what you want to do.
Yeah, it's definitely awe-inspiring when I hear these stories. There's actually someone that came onto the show yesterday, and he partnered up with this guy. So this guy started wholesaling in 2019, right? And one of the first things he learned was from our podcast, and he literally is a millionaire. Like, he started in 2019. It's only been 2 years. Yeah. And he said it was thanks to the show, and it is just unbelievable what people are able to do with the information we put out there.
Agreed. And it's just people that take action, right? You always say that people that watch it, there's 90% of them that aren't going to take action off it. But if 10% do, the amount of lives that get changed, because it's almost like a pay it forward kind of mentality. You look at people that learn things and then help somebody else.
Well, I was, right, that scrappy kid at one point who was reaching out for help. And there were some people that were very helpful, and there were other people that didn't give you the time of day. And that's just the way it is. And so for me, I'm paying it forward, because what was really cool when the people were teaching it to me, or they're like, hey, we hope that one day that you can help someone else that's coming up.
Yeah. And that's what's so important. Every time, like, people will message me on Instagram or Facebook, and they're like, hey, how can I repay you for helping me with this? I'm like, honestly, get going on what you're doing and then help somebody else. And that's what I want to see people do, because that is so important. I think, without getting too much into it, I feel like in this world, it's almost become everyone against everyone. And anything we can do to try to help people help each other, help people assist each other, and help people pay it forward. You even hear stupid things like Starbucks drive-through, somebody pays for the order behind them, and then the next person does it, and the next person does it. And it's actually the perfect example of how people can take something and pay it forward. Now, there's always going to be that person that eventually stops that, right? And that's fine. It's always going to happen. But if we can get people to take things I'm putting out, things you're putting out, and all these other people, and learn things from it, and it's free content, take this and actually implement it. I mean, the difference that can be made in people's lives are absolutely amazing.
Yeah, the abundance mindset, which I think is part of the principles we learn through leadership, right? It's that there's a reason why the givers are on the top. It's because you get a lot of reciprocity at work. But we learned this, right, growing up for Christmas, right? Like, it's better to give than to receive, and like, that's stupid, right? But then we learn as we get older, that's actually true.
Yeah, and that's so true, man. I shifted that mindset years back, where I honestly just tell people, like, even my wife and stuff, I'm like, don't buy me a present. Like, honestly, I don't want it. Like, what I would love to do is, like, just spend time as a family and go and do something. And that's what I want to do. And, like, for Christmas, one thing that we started this last year that was actually really cool, we actually started reaching out to our local community Facebook page and said, hey, I know with COVID, people have experienced some hard times. So if you guys want to nominate, a family that you guys think really needs some help, but is not going to reach out to the giving trees and is not going to reach out to those type of things, nominate them. And people did. People were coming forward and nominating people. So us as a team, we all came together, chose the families, and then went and bought all their presents, literally everything that they needed for an entire Christmas.
That's
and
awesome.
I would rather do that than get a present myself. Like, I look at it and I'm like, man, that is a present to me. I just honestly love seeing that. And
It's a little
doing it
selfish on our
without the
part.
recognition.
It's a little selfish on our part because it makes us feel really good.
It does, but I don't have a camera in my face when I'm doing it, right? We don't do that for a reason. And everyone that feels like when they give back, they have to have a camera in their face while they're at a homeless shelter. And I'm like, really? Like, get that camera out of there. If you're truly doing it for the right reason, you don't need the camera there. So, but anyways, dude, so you've got 100 millionaires as your goal, and I want you to kind of tell us about that. How far along are you? And kind of tell people that don't know about it what this is, because this is so impressive.
Yeah. So, honest answer is right now we don't know how many, and it's a KPI that we've been wanting to track for some time, and it's actually been a rock for this quarter. And so we're pretty close to being able to track it. And when I say track it, I mean like they're going to have to submit like balance sheets, something that's signed off by an accountant, right? Because what we're doing is some of the people might have seen the plaques that we've given out. So we're taking it to the next level now, where if you've never done a deal before, but you're trying to do this, you can do a pledge, something that you can print, something you can frame, something you can share on your social media. But once you start doing deals and you have to send HUDs to prove this, you do your first deal, we're going to send you a white poker chip that says 1, right? Because that's the value it is in the casino. If you've done 10 deals, we're going to send you a blue chip. 25 deals, we're going to send you a green chip. 100K a year, we're going to send you a black chip. 100K a month, we're going to send you a purple chip. And then if you do $1 million in a year in revenue, we're going to send you a challenger coin, which is kind of like what those AA medals kind of feel like. And then finally, once you're a millionaire and you can prove it, we're going to send you a plaque. And all this, we're not even charging anybody. We're not even going to charge for shipping and handling, right? We just want to put out that goodwill to empower people. So, and then I think you're asking me why we did this. And one of the first business books I read after I got into the business was Think and Grow Rich. And someone actually asked Andrew Carnegie, like, you've got 18 millionaires that work for you. How does that make, how does that come to happen? How does that make sense? He says, well, you're asking the wrong question. They weren't millionaires until they met me. And so for me, like, I saw like, okay, the wealthiest guy ever, right? For a time, he was the wealthiest man alive. And his way of creating wealth for himself was to create wealth in others. And so you can see this, right? Going back to our law of reciprocity we were talking about earlier. The more people I help, Zig Ziglar, I always love this line. You can have anything in life you want so long as you help enough other people get what they want in life.
I like that. Yeah. And you're truly doing it, man. I mean, I think the poker chip thing is actually really, really cool. You should try to figure out a way to develop like some type of framed in thing they can get to put all the chips in when they're done or something, like, because you don't want those to go away. That's memories. That's like, this is all the trials and tribulations I went through to get chip 1, because we know chip 1 is the hardest one to get,
By far. We talked about that last week.
Yeah, it is absolutely crazy. And yeah, that's actually a really good point. We can kind of share our conversation a little bit. Steve and I were talking about how hard it is to get somebody to get to that first deal, because it's the biggest mindset shift for that person trying to do it, going from potentially working a 9-to-5, working for somebody else, to literally looking at going and creating their future and changing their future, changing their family tree, changing all of that. And when you look at it, getting someone to put in the work, they may act motivated, they may seem motivated, but as they get told no 100 times because they have no idea what they're doing, and as they get told no 100 times, it's hard to get to that first deal and stay motivated to get there. And it's hard for us as people that want them to get there to keep them motivated, because we have to look and say, hey, we want to put our time and effort into people that want to do this, that want to change the life, that want to change everything they have going for them. And it's hard for us to put that time and effort into people if we have to keep telling them, hey, stay on track, stay motivated. We need those people to help themselves as well. And getting people is tough.
Something I said before, right? Like most people want to be successful. Most people want to be rich and wealthy, and so on. In many of the same ways that I want a six pack. Like I really want one.
Me too.
But I am not ready to pay the dues, right? To get a six pack. And I think for a lot of people, like, yeah, they want it, but do they really want it? Are they willing to sacrifice? Are they willing to pay the necessary price? Because it's not like you just work a couple extra hours, right? It's not a side hustle. It's a full-time gig. And even it, there are people that are doing this full time that are struggling, right? And so good luck trying to do this as a side hustle. And then you got the mental baggage, you got the things in your head, the telling all the reasons why it wouldn't work, right? You've been conditioned since elementary school, like this is the way to do it. And then you got to undo all that head trash. And then you got to, once you even get rid of all that head trash, now you got to get rid of everyone else's head trash, because the ones that love you the most are the ones that are going to hold you back indirectly.
Yeah.
Because they've also got this head trash.
Mm-hmm. I agree. And it takes, like for me, I've always been one of those people that are like, I don't care what somebody says. If I want to do something, I'm going to go and do it. And that's not
a blessing.
An attitude. Yeah, it's not an attitude a lot of people have. And
it's a blessing, and it got you in trouble in school.
It did.
Yeah.
It did. And I was always someone to question why. I was always someone to push back as much as I could. Mm-hmm. And my teachers hated it in previous jobs. Managers hated it. But I wanted to know why I was doing something. Because if I was going to spend 10 hours doing something and it wasn't going to be utilized, I was like, what am I doing this for? I mean,
so that was totally me too. Right. And so like, we look at now as a blessing, but man, in school or work, it was a problem. I remember I had an internship where I showed up to the office at like 8:40, and like my boss was there pissed off, right? She's like, it's 8:40. Where were you? It's like, I didn't know I had to be here by a certain time. Right. And so what did I do? Mm-hmm. This punk 19-year-old, 20-year-old, right after she was done yelling at me, I went to her boss's office. And I was like, what's the standard here? No one's ever told me what time I need to be here. Like, do I need to be here at 8:30? Yeah. Do I have to have my butt in the seat at 8:30? Does my car need to be in the parking lot at 8:30? Like, what is the standard here? Because she's been yelling at me for like 10, 15 minutes, and I didn't even know what the expectations are. Now, not probably the best way to handle it, but it's that cavalier kind of attitude that allows us to push through all the challenges that we run into. Mm-hmm.
Agreed. Did you go to college, Steve?
I went to college. As a matter of fact, I went to graduate school, right? So I was actually a PhD student. So I have a master's degree in electrical engineering. So I was in UC San Diego. Yeah. So I did the whole thing, everything that mom and dad said to do: go to school, get good grades, get a good job, did all those things. Started working my job. I was like, this sucks. This is not for me.
Yeah. Because I think it's crazy how it goes, college is great for a lot of things. I don't want to discount that. For me, like I walked in and it was about 2 weeks in and I said, this isn't for me. Like I'm out, and never turned back. I don't regret it at all, but there are a lot of people that did go to college that put a lot of emphasis on college to be able to run a business and be able to do that. Now, I had to be more self-taught, and a lot of it has come down to trial and error. I didn't know what the heck I was doing when I looked at starting a business. I'm like, all right, I guess I got to register a business. Oh crap, I guess I should open a bank account. Like I didn't really know like any of this stuff. And it's crazy to see, I'm looking at almost 6 years later now on this business and being able to see how far I've come as far as running a business and how I feel like, yeah, college probably would have helped with some of that, but I'm more of a self-taught person. And what do you feel when people, take me out of the equation, when people say to you, hey, Steve, if I want to start this business, should I go to college to make this happen, or should I just jump right into it and do it? What are your thoughts?
I tell people if they know what they want, then they don't have to go to college, right? Like if you don't know what you want, go to college, right? If you don't know what you're doing with your life, like go to college. But
Yeah.
if you're clear, like, you want to do real estate, do it. I mean, literally your costs are very low right now, right? As an 18, 19, 20-year old, your cost of living is not very high. I mean,
Yep.
a lot of people in college just ate ramen noodles. You can still do that as you're trying to be an entrepreneur. So, and you're going to rack up some debt, or you're going to have a lot of expenses, right? To do this business, but that's the same kind of debt and expenses you're going to have. You're going to college anyway, and you
Yep.
have nothing to show for that, more likely than not. So at least here you have something to show for it. So yeah, I think college, I mean, I'm probably really jaded here, but I think for the most part, unless you're going to college for an actual career, engineering, attorney, doctor, so on, if you're not going to college for a specific purpose, then you're pretty much wasting your money. And I remember, right, like we're trying to figure out what major we're going to have. Like I chose engineering from the beginning, right? From day one, I was going to be a computer programmer. Switched after 1 year to electrical, but I knew I was going to get a degree that I could do something with. Like, and the whole time I'm in college, right? Even as a freshman, like, what the hell do you do with a communications degree? Right? What are you going to do with that liberal arts degree? And I really couldn't, I didn't have an answer to that question, but I would just look around. I was like, really? Like mommy and daddy are paying 20 grand a year for you to go get a liberal arts degree?
Yeah.
Cool. Good for you.
It's crazy. It's so expensive too. Like my wife did. She's got a bachelor's degree, and you know what? I'm very happy she went, and I'm proud of her for getting that degree. Then you've got me, who's more of the rebel one that was like, I'm out, and literally 2 weeks in, just walked out, never turned back. And that was actually, I think, the hardest thing for that is telling my mom, hey, I'm not going back to college, like, because she always brought us up saying, all right, this is how it works. You go to school and you get good grades, and then you apply to college. You go to college, and the college will help you get placement in a career. But here's the thing: is my family's always had you go get a job and you work the 9 to 5, and my parents taught me the hard work. They'll work whatever hours they needed to work. They were the employees that you dream of having, but they're hard to find because they'll put in whatever time they need. They're not clocking in at 9 out of 5. They'll do whatever work they needed to do. And that mentality right there taught me more than college would ever teach me. And I was able to take that and say, hey, I'm going to do something different, and I'm going to blow this up. And I took risks that I can't believe my wife was fine with, because it was while we were together. It's like, hey, I'm emptying our account, and I don't know where the heck our next payment's going to come from, but I'm confident that I'm going to make this work. And she's like, oh, well, what if this, what if that? And I'm like, hey, I don't know if it's going to work or not. I don't know what's going to happen. But she was on board, and she pushed it with me, and she is still, part of this business partly. She still does some stuff every once in a while, but you look at it and say that we became who we are today and how successful we are today based on taking some of those risks. Now, I'm going to real quick just throw out a disclaimer. Anyone listening, in no way am I saying go empty your savings account and go start a business. I'm not saying that, and I want to make that 100% clear. I took a risk because I'm a risk taker, and I did it, and it turned out fine for me. A lot of people take those risks and it doesn't. So do not go do that just because I said I did.
Well, so here, let me add to that, right? So I remember, because I'm opposed to telling people like, go buy this program, go buy this, go to seminar, put all this stuff in your credit card. Right? I'm very much opposed to telling people to do that. Yeah. At the same time, I personally maxed out all my credit cards and lines of credit on my house to build a business. Right. Yeah. So I think there's just something maybe wrong with us, but I think those things that are wrong with us are the reason why we're able to do what we do.
Yeah, maybe we're wired wrong, but I like it, whatever it is. So, I mean, building a business. How long have you been in the business, Steve?
Well, including the traditional side, 14 years.
14 years, okay. And so and I know people talk about this all the time, but I want to talk about it, is misconceptions in business, right? So 14 years. In 14 years, everyone says, all right, Mr. Steve Trang here, Mr. Popular Steve Trang, sales trainer, real estate disruptors, all these businesses, everything you've accomplished. You obviously started the business here at zero. And Steve, man, I know that you're so successful that this business just went like this all the way up, right? All the way with absolutely none of this. Now, I don't know why people always think that because we're successful, that we had that easy ride and everything just went up like this. Tell people the journey and whether that was the case or not.
So I started in May of 07. I want to say the first couple of years, there was a lot of trials and tribulations. The real estate market certainly didn't help. I have this attitude where I will solve it no matter what. I can conquer any challenge. Well, I was wrong. So I got some humility lessons. But part of that, like I said, I maxed out my credit cards. I mean, for me, being married, I mean, the D word was dropped a few times, right? I mean, it's a challenging thing to do. I mean, I think it's hard to be an entrepreneur, and people talk about that, not enough, but they talk about it. But no one talks how hard it is to be married to an entrepreneur, because you're married to a dreamer who can't focus, whose eyes always on the next thing. And the wife will ask, or the husband will ask, like, hey, when is this going to pay off? It's like, I know it's right there. It's right around the corner. And that's because we're dreamers, right? And so sometimes we're right, but more often than not, we're not. Statistics show that, right? I think like 4% of businesses make it 10 years. It's not very promising. And so I would say the first few years were pretty tough. I made a lot of stupid mistakes, and it wasn't. So my first problem, talking about humility lessons, was that I would look at coaching as a waste of money. Right.
Yeah.
That was the first problem. It's like, why would you pay someone to do that? Why don't you just learn your own, right? Just make expensive mistakes on your own, and you can learn from that. Totally ignorant, but that was my attitude. And so I started in 07. I didn't get coaching until about 2010, 2011. And then that's when things like the light bulb kind of went off. But even then, I had a lot of wins. I had a lot of outside recognition. But I know personally, even though I had all this external validation, my bank account wasn't where it needed to be, right? I wasn't making the kind of money I wanted to make. And the struggle, as a lot of business owners, and maybe a lot of people listening to right now, there were a lot of times where everyone in the organization was making a lot more money than me, right? I'm taking the risk. I'm spending money on the marketing. I'm paying for the lease. I'm paying for the overhead. I'm paying for the admins. And everyone else in the company, literally everyone in the company, is making more than me, right? And I wasn't angry about it. I just knew that's what comes with the territory, right? Leaders eat last. That's the book. And so, but I can tell you, you can have these ideas and you can have these ideals, but those conversations at home are not the best, right? When the wife says, how come this person's doing better than you? How come this person's making more than you? And this and that, is like, because this is the journey, right? It's going to be better, but this is the journey. And that is not a good answer to a spouse who's supporting you, right? Who's depending on all this. So I will say, all in all, first 7 to 9 years sucked. I think it didn't help that I started in 2007. So I would say maybe it would have sucked less if I didn't start at that time. But I also got some compliments along with, like, early in my career, where there are people like, wow, you're willing to work this hard. When this recession changes, your life is going to turn around. Because I had multiple people tell me, like, man, when this thing turns around, I can see you're going to be a rock star. So it wasn't for lack of effort, but man, there are a lot of challenges that you don't even know is coming as part of this journey.
That's the thing about being a business owner, is surprises don't surprise you as much anymore. It sounds crazy, but it actually is true. But
some words you might hear yourself saying is like, of course.
Yeah, right. And I was actually talking to my COO yesterday, and I was like, he called me about a problem. He doesn't do that very often. He's like, geez, like he just needed a vent. And I said to him, hey man, 4 years ago when you started with me, would you have been surprised by this problem? And he said, yeah, absolutely. I said, are you surprised by it now? No, not at all. And it's crazy how your mentality shifts over the years as you learn more. But you know, going back to like the wife's thing, I gotta say, and I'm sure you agree with this, is your wife asking those questions and pushing that is what you needed to hear, right? Because you look at it and say, hey, it's not just me anymore, right? It's a team. And by you going home and getting those questions and getting that so-called pushback, like, hey, how come this person is making more? How come this person's making more? You're the business owner, Steve. Why aren't you making this? Why aren't we moving forward? That stuff, you know, in your mind had to help push you forward. It had to help get you to that next level because you did not want to fail, because you did not want to fail her as well, because you guys are a team.
Yeah, so absolutely. Well, another thing too was the fact that she was communicating it, right? Because the other thing too, as you see from other business owners we've witnessed, is they're quiet about it. And then the next thing you know, the bags are packed. Like, what's going on here?
Yeah. It's tough, man, being married and then also doing business. Like, cause this is the thing. So Steve and I are in a mastermind, well, actually a couple of masterminds together. You know, one of the masterminds, we're doing a trip where the people in the group bring their spouses. And there's more of a reason to that than what I've led on, right? I've led on, hey, let's just get everyone together. Because of what you said earlier, that a lot of the spouses, them dealing with us is actually really tough. And that is a struggle. And there are times that go up and down. I know my wife said pigs a few times too, because I'm always focused on what can I do next and how can I move on to that next thing? How can I get a portfolio of different businesses? And our minds are always almost that squirrel mentality, right? Like we're going on to the next thing and we start something now, but we're not focused on the thing now, we're focused on what we're doing next. And that's why integrators fit our businesses very well. And you know, the whole reason that we're doing this trip is not just to go out and have fun. It is, but it's also because I want these wives to get together and I want them to talk and I want them to get to know each other, because I would love for your wife to be like, oh my gosh, Steve, seriously, I don't know why you're not stopping. I'm calling Scott's wife and I'm going to talk to her. And the two of them are able to vent back and forth and have that conversation, because only them know what each other are going through dealing with people like us on a daily basis. And it's challenging.
Yeah, they say, right, it's lonely at the top. You hear this expression a lot. And it's true. There's fewer people that are having success in businesses or business owners. It's true. Mm-hmm. But it's even lonelier for the spouses. And no one talks about that.
Yeah. Because you and I work what we need to work. And if that means we leave the house at 6 a.m. and get home at 10 o'clock to build this business, we're going to do it. But to us, we look at it as building a legacy. To them, they look at it like we don't care and we're not home. So, and I guess that's the advice I'll give anyone watching that, you know, has a spouse or a serious girlfriend, engaged, boyfriend, whatever the heck it is. You know, make sure you always try to take into account what your spouse is feeling. Because in your mind, you have good intentions. Like, I'm going to build this business to make our future successful, to make it so we have a future that we've dreamed of together. But if you forget the together part and you start realizing that what you're doing is working so long that you have forgotten about, I guess forgotten's the wrong word. You have not realized that you're putting off what you have at home. And you're putting off that person that's helped push you to build the business, then you end up with a successful business 5 years later. But if that person is gone, what does that do?
Well, and that's the reason why Chaim has always been one of my favorite people, because he's the only one of everyone that we work with that's remembered why he started. Like, because we get distracted and we're like, oh, there's this, oh, there's this, there's that. Right, we're always chasing the next thing because, you know, that's just kind of how we're wired. And Chaim's the only one who's always intentional and focused on why he started.
He is. And so if you guys don't know who Chaim is, you can look up the virtual wholesaler guy. Haim is one of the most kind-hearted, genuine people I have ever met in my entire life. And Haim said something when I met him about 4 years ago. He said he lives his life by design. He lives his life to the point where he can spend time with his family. And he promised his family he'd be home every weekend with them. And he promised his family that he would go on vacations and he would spend time with them and put them first. And what Haim did is he built his business around that. All of us build our businesses in whatever hours we need to be, and some of that gets pushed off to the side. Unintentional, but it gets pushed off to the side. And, I was the person that always said, years ago, I'm so much different now than I was. I always said, I got to make a ton of money. I got to go do this. And I never quite understood Haim's mentality. I'm like, why wouldn't he want to make more money? Why wouldn't he want to go do this? It's not the fact that he doesn't want to make more money. And I realized this probably about 2 years ago, is Haim actually has built an amazing family. He has been an amazing dad. And he said, collect memories, not things. And it was when it hit me what he meant by that, right? I had multiple cars. I had the huge house. I had the gorgeous backyard with the pool with the waterfalls and all this stuff. I had damn 4 garages in my house. I had off-road toys. I had all this stuff. And when it finally hit me, I said to my wife, I said, why don't we live in a location that we would rather live in and get rid of all this stuff? And she was like, really? So we moved out to the beach. I sold everything. Everything. Yeah, do I miss some of it? Yeah, I miss some of it. But the memories I'm making being in a location we'd like to be in and focusing more on each other versus, my off-road toys and the multiple things I had. Yeah, I miss jumping in my pool in the backyard at 10 o'clock at night on a hot day if I want to. But you know what? I don't miss it that much. And I started realizing it's more important to me to go on a vacation. It's more important to me to go and do things to collect those memories than it was to have all of these toys. And that is driven by Haim. He just moved back to Israel where he wants to spend time with his family there. And I applaud that so much. And I think you and I have seen Haim very closely over the last couple of years. And we've really seen what it was he's done. And you have a family, and I know you, as conversations that we've had, you have 2 daughters, right?
3.
3, okay, 3 daughters. And you've always said to me, hey, here's the thing, I can't get together this night. When I was in Arizona, we were talking about it. Hey, let's get together. Oh, well, I have my daughter's piano, I think you said.
Piano lessons.
And honestly, when you said that hit me, dude. I was like, wow, this guy, man, he's got potentially a business opportunity we're going to talk about, but he's going to go to his daughter's piano. I applaud you for that. And I'm so proud of you for that because we could get together, we could work on this business idea and maybe make $1 million. We don't know. We could get together and work on the business idea and it could flop and we could make 0. But you said, hey man, I gotta be at my daughter's piano lesson. And I need to be there for her and that's what I'm gonna do. And I said, man, that's great. Okay, we'll find another time.
Which we did. We just start earlier in the day.
We did, yeah, right. But I applaud that. And I do see you from even when meeting you to now, you are living more of what Haim has put out there and you are living more of that. Now, how has that impacted your family life?
Well, it's been good. I want to say it was probably right after our first daughter where my wife says, I'm working at 11 o'clock at night. She's like, is this how it's going to be forever? I was like, oh, crap. Right. And so then since then I've been intentional. Yeah. So it's been intentional since then. So it's been good. Right. So it's been 10 years, about 10 years, and it's been good. But yeah, if there wasn't that conversation about it, and again, I am grateful that I have a wife that is vocal, right, about what's important. She challenges me, and I've since learned that she's actually a bigger driver than I am as far as personality goes. Not the risk taker, but driver. And so that was when I made a conscious decision to be like, okay, so I'm going to plan my life and then build a business that supports my life. And I will hire just about anybody in any organization or in my personal life to make this happen, right? Like finally got meal prep, we're finally getting food delivered to our home. I'm not talking about Grubhub, which is also amazing. I'm talking about I'm talking about a healthy food prep person that makes the food and delivers it to us on Sundays. So just all these things so we can spend more time together and be healthier. Yeah, I think being intentional with that along the lines of what Chaim said.
Yeah. And that kind of stuff is so important. And I know we're not really talking about a ton of real estate right now, but this stuff helps with business. And
this is something that people are going to experience one way or another.
I agree, man. And for me, I looked at myself after it was Sean Terry's event last time, and I looked at myself in the mirror and I'm like, whoa. Actually, it was actually Cody who was sitting behind the scenes. He's sitting here and always editing videos and editing pictures. And I looked at myself and I'm like, holy crap, that's what I look like? I'm like, I got to do something. And that's why I went home and said to my wife, I got to lose weight. I'm like, this is crazy. Like, I need to lose weight. I was eating out every day. I'd look at DoorDash, Postmates, all that kind of stuff. And I'm like, dang, I ate all that stuff. And now we have Amazon deliver our groceries every single week on Sunday. It sounds so simple, but honestly, not going to the store, I hate going to the grocery store, so not going to the store and stuff and just having that show up at the house, we throw it in our fridge, we cook at home, it makes me feel so much better. And then we started packing, leftovers for lunches and stuff. I did the meal prep for a while, but I said, you know what? If we're already cooking, we realized cooking actually became a good time for my wife and I to sit down and talk, and see, hey, how was your day? Because it is a habit for a lot of couples eventually. You go sit in front of the TV and stuff, you're not talking. Like, that gives us the ability to know we're sitting.
Become roommates.
It gives us the ability to talk. Yeah, it's nice. And then you start really realizing, now I feel healthier. Now, here's my thing, and I'm putting this out on a podcast right now, that I'm gonna start going to the gym soon because I need to keep my weight off. I need to get myself, going. So I'm gonna start doing that soon. And I'm setting myself up to be able to do it, and I will do it. And looking at that stuff is important because as an entrepreneur, as I looked at my life, I lost 24, 25 pounds this year, right? And I'm like, oh, dude, I felt so good and I feel good afterwards. Now we're keeping track of our calories in MyFitnessPal every day. We're doing it together. She didn't have the weight to lose like I did. She just did it because she's very, very into fitness. But she keeps track of her calories every day. We push each other. And I think that's really important because if you are working so much as an entrepreneur where you're ordering Postmates all the time, you're eating out breakfast, lunch, and dinner, it doesn't work. What's that?
Jack in the Box drive-thrus, been guilty of that in the past.
Yeah, right? You look at it and say that, hey, eventually something's got to change. And sometimes you don't realize it until something bad happens. So we have a lot of stress as entrepreneurs as things happen. And you want to make sure you're as healthy as possible because that is so important.
Well, and someone said this to me because his doctor said this to him. And he was just sharing his story from his doctor. It wasn't for me, it was for him. And he was really hurt by it. But it prompted change. And it was basically like, hey, look, you can keep doing whatever you want, but just know that your wife's next husband is going to really love that Ferrari when you drop. I was like, and it's true, right? Like, you've been busting your butt and if you have a heart attack because you're not taking care of yourself, yeah, that next guy is going to really enjoy your money.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point because that's actually something similar that I thought about a while back. I said, my wife and I used to go on like 3 weeks of vacations a year, even 4 weeks of vacations a year as we started this business when it was smaller. Then we started growing. And you think by growing, it gives you more time because you're hiring people and you go on vacations. You started realizing, wow, that 4 went to 3, then it went to 2. And we're still going on them, but it ended up being like, oh, an extended weekend here and there and stuff like that. And I said, that's something I've got to get back to. I need to get back to making sure that we are going on those vacations and spending that time one-on-one. And that's so important. It's easy to see how things fall off. I could work my butt off and you're right, have a heart attack and her next husband's going to be enjoying everything that I just worked for, including my business that I put all this time and effort into. And that's the last thing that I want to see happen. So, it's important to make sure that we're always looking at ourselves as entrepreneurs and see how can we make ourselves better personally, which in turn is going to make us better professionally. And that is so important. And I want to make sure that everyone realizes that. Everyone may be watching this saying, well, you're supposed to be giving us the tips and tricks on real estate. This is the tips and tricks on real estate, but it is the tips and tricks on everything that you're doing as an entrepreneur. And this stuff is never talked about. And I'm glad we went down this road because it is never talked about. And it is so important for people to realize it. And I think this is honestly the most important thing, because if you have someone standing behind you that's helping you, that person may not be on your business or may not be a part of your business, but they are a part of your business because they're the ones that you're going home and complaining to every single night when you have a bad day. They're your sounding board. And those are the people that say, hey, Scott, get over it. This happened. Now ask me how my day was, and you've got to shift from it. And it makes it actually really good. So Steve, you got a lot of stuff going on, man. I know you got your sales training that was absolutely blown up. And I think, honestly, you are probably becoming, if not already, the top sales trainer in the real estate industry. The probably most well-known one between you and John Martinez. You guys are both like right there, but you guys are both offering kind of a different approach on things. And I know that you've been all over in a couple masterminds we've been in. A lot of people I know have started to mention your name so much regarding what you're doing. You want to kind of tell us about your sales training and what it is, what your goal is with that?
Yeah, I think a lot of us are happy to, like, where's the next lead coming from, the next list, which, how do we market to, how do we get a hold of people? And I think those things are important conversations. It's not that they're irrelevant, right? But those are things that you can find. And marketing is not that complex in this industry. In this industry, marketing is not terribly complex, right? Once you figure it out, it's kind of like an autopilot. Then after that, you got two skills that are important. One is leadership, which we kind of touched on a moment ago with entrepreneurship, but the other one is sales. And sales is something that people don't care about, or they think it's a soft art that you either have it or you don't. You're either charismatic or you're not, or you're just a good closer or you're not. And it's not true, right? We can actually break apart what makes a successful salesperson and teach all those different skills that a natural salesperson has, right? Like, people have gone through great lengths to study all of it and break it down. And I've had the good fortune, because I have amazing people, where I get to just dive deep into all these different topics and learn from other industry experts, and now taking it and applied it to real estate in our business and teach off those principles. So basically what we do is we've taken all the things we've learned, from, you got Chris Voss, Never Split the Difference. There's some other selling systems out there that I'm not allowed to mention because they sent me a cease and desist. I've gotten punched in the mouth, kicked in the nuts, right? In this business, I've learned, neuro-linguistics programming. So I've taken all these different processes and just took what's worked in our industry, and obviously threw out what didn't work, because you've tried things like, oh, this is gonna be great, and it's a complete dud, right? So we've taken everything and we just teach what our sales process for us to compete in Phoenix, which, is a competitive market.
What do you think? So people always talk about training your competition. So you just said, I'm in Phoenix, which is a competitive market. It's a competitive market. You have literally, I think, 80% of the gurus that are out there are located within Phoenix, Scottsdale. So how do you feel that you are training their teams? And how do you feel about that these people are literally using what Steve Trang teaches and going out there to compete with you?
I love it. And the reason why is because, and we've talked about this, we are raising the standards in the industry. And so if we're working together and I'm training you, then what's going to happen naturally is you're going to start doing a lot of what I consider more ethical, more moral, right? Doing the right things the right way. And you're going to win when you follow these processes against all these other guys that don't have a process, that don't know what they're doing. And so for me personally, I am happy to see that we will be creating a better experience for sellers, right? Which sounds crazy, but we do this business to help homeowners. We do very well helping the homeowners. I will not, try to hide that. We do very well helping homeowners. But by training my competition, the homeowner will have a better experience than, some of the other training systems we've seen out there.
That makes a good point. I mean, there's nothing wrong with helping somebody, and you also, well, I guess let me rephrase what I'm saying. There's nothing wrong with having a business where you're focused on being able to solve problems, which in turn helps people, and make money from that. I feel like it's almost written as a taboo out there that if you're making money off helping people, then it's wrong. Well, we're not talking about you're going and helping the homeless and you're making money off that. We're saying you're helping people through a situation that no other company out there is good enough, trained enough, or knows how to actually help them. You're stepping in and offer your expertise to be able to help them out of a situation. And yes, you did make money, but you didn't charge the seller for that. So that's the way I kind of look at it.
And resources. And that's the thing where, we get the realtors, right? And I'm also a broker, right? We get the realtors that hate us, like, well, yeah, but you couldn't solve their problem. You had one tool. You couldn't fix the problem. So like, why are you getting mad
to
at
them?
us?
That's not the point though. To the realtors, it's, well, this would have eventually been a listing for me once the seller figured out on their own how to solve the problem, and you're taking this away from me.
Once the seller figured out how to put $30,000 into their house to remodel it and deal with the contractors that they didn't have.
Yep. Or from the money they didn't have, or the equity they didn't have. And being able to help people solve those problems are great. And honestly, I don't want to sound like I'm going against realtors. I'm not at all. There's in my mind, there's two different types of realtors out there. There's the realtors that have been in the industry for so long and are so set in their ways of doing things that they're unable to evolve and try something different or be open to new ideas. Then there's the realtors that are open to new ideas and are open to the way things are changing. And those are the realtors that are going to be so successful in what it is that they're doing. And those two types, there's such a big difference between them, because even just look at our industry, right? When we started this, iBuyers didn't exist. We, as business owners, have had to make some type of shift to be able to compete with the new way of doing things. And that kind of thing is the same with us. If we refuse to evolve and we refuse to find a way to compete, be better, solve more problems, if we refuse to do that, then we're dead in the water as it is. So we have to be able to evolve, just like realtors have to be able to evolve and find ways to work with us. I will pay any realtor commission that brings a buyer for our deals. I have no problem with any of that. And the way I look at it, because I have that mentality that you have, is if realtors would start working with us, they're going to make a ton of money off of us. Because guess what? My side, I don't have a realty business. So I have a ton of leads within my system that could very easily be farmed out to realtors. And if those realtors are partners with us, they're going to get those leads. And in turn, they're going to make a ton of money. But people have to be open to change. They have to be open to evolving. And 6 months from now, when it evolves again, they got to evolve again. And they got to keep adjusting their processes to be able to get to the point where they can be successful in whatever they're doing.
There's a realtor in my office who does very well because he's very wholesaler friendly. He gets a lot of listings. It's incredible.
Yeah.
But he's one of the few who will actually hustle, do the work, will actually call the seller.
And that's true. You just said it. We'll actually call the seller. I feel like, and this sounds like I'm going against realtors, but I'm not at all. It's the same with wholesalers sometimes. Follow up and things like that. I think a lot of realtors think that, well, when I call the person, they're either going to sign or not sign, and they do no follow up. And a lot of wholesalers, they're going to call that lead the first time and they're never going to call them. You know, you look at that page of sales statistics out there that say how many people call somebody one time, how many people call them 2, 3, 10 times or more. It's crazy how that number drops off with the follow-up of over 10 times. You don't have to be the best salesperson. You barely have to be a salesperson if you've got your follow-up game down and you're truly building rapport with these people. You can close deals by being the person that continuously follows up with people. And you'll get deals just from that. Now, if you add in the sales component to that, you're going to close significantly more deals. So when I look at your sales training and what you're offering people, you're offering people the ability to add a tool to their toolbox that can help them close significantly more deals and help them make significantly more money and help them get to that next level. Because if you take that follow-up, you combine it with sales experience right there, that's where your money's going to be made.
Yep. That's when you get revenue, and that's when you can start buying time back. That's when you can get a good assistant. That's when you can hire more salespeople or hire whatever else. But now you get your time back, which is why we all started. It's time freedom.
Yeah. And it doesn't work out as easy as we think it is sometimes.
It does not. No, we just have more complicated problems.
Yeah, exactly. Well, so to wrap this up, you got any final thoughts that you want to, any advice or anything you want to offer anyone watching this?
Yeah, I mean, I would say it's the same thing I always say is just consistent action. Like there's never been a better time to be alive. There's never been a better country to live in. Freaking take advantage of it. There's so much opportunity, that if someone wanted to, they could seize it. Look at you, look at me. There's so much opportunity if you choose to take advantage of it.
I like that a lot. I think we need to title this podcast Getting Real with Steve Trang. I love this because I don't want to title this hey, how to wholesale, because we're not doing that. This is truly things that people need to know, and I think this is so important for people to watch. And I appreciate you being here. If people want to actually check out your sales training, your podcast, how do they find you?
Yeah, so the best way to find the podcast is just Real Estate Disruptors. Our sales training, you just go to disruptors.com, disruptors. I spell that out only because some people spell it with an E. So just disruptors.com. And you can always find me on Instagram, steve.trang.
Cool. And then we'll go ahead and throw the links to all that on here. So if anybody wants to check that out, we'll have the links to all of Steve's stuff. So you guys can check it. I truly am putting that box of approval, that stamp of approval right on all of Steve's stuff. He's a genuine guy. I see the way he is with his family. I see the way he is with his business, his employees. This guy is not one of those fake people. Steve Trang is one of those people that's actually living and breathing what he's teaching. And he is truly doing this probably more than most people in most industries. Steve is actually being the person living by what he's teaching, which is actually really cool. So, Steve, I appreciate you being here. I appreciate you getting real with me and actually having these conversations that a lot of people don't want to have. I appreciate it so much, and thank you for joining us. Everyone, I hope you enjoyed this. If you guys want to watch more of these, make sure you subscribe to my channel. I'm Scott Oots. This is Steve Trang. We'll talk to you guys later.
Thank you.